What's up, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Bulls Latest. Your host, Matt Johnson, here as we kick off this Friday show. I want to invite everyone to like and subscribe to Bulls Latest here. It goes a long way for the channel. Things are starting to ramp up as we get closer to another NBA regular season here. Your guys' support goes a long way. It's been awesome to this point. I want to start today's show with some exciting news regarding a Chicago Bulls legend and an icon to the NBA game. Bulls announced that the Derrick Rose jersey retirement night will be this upcoming season on January 24th, 2026. They will retire his number one jersey in the rafters there in a post-game ceremony on the court when the team hosts the Boston Celtics that night. The celebrations are going to feature a United Center atrium experience. That's going to be super exciting. I'm certainly looking forward to this night here. Additional details about the ceremony will be shared at a later date here. To celebrate the announcement, the Bulls have announced they will display graphics of Derrick Rose outside the United Center and in the atrium. And the fans can join in and celebrate Derrick throughout the season by attending. They put together 4 games during which the Bulls will give away collectible D Rose figurines at gates throughout the United Center there. The 4 figurines represent different chapters of Derrick's Bulls career. I thought this was a cool touch. He certainly had a memorable tenure with Chicago, and they did put together 4 of these, and I'll go through some of the 4 here and some of the details on each. The first being his Rookie of the Year, Derrick on November 4th, 2025 against the Philadelphia 76ers. That'll be the Rookie of the Year, Derrick. The Bulls selected Derrick with the first overall pick in the 2008 NBA draft, obviously. Many remember the Bulls winning that lottery after one season with the University of Memphis there. In his rookie season, Derrick burst onto the scene, averaging 16.8 points a game to go along with 6.3 assists a game and nearly 4 rebounds per game in 81 games. He went on to win Rookie of the Year, receiving 111 of the 120 first-place votes there. So that'll be the first of the 4. The second being Face Mask Derrick on December 17th. The Bulls will play the Cleveland Cavaliers. In practice before the start of the 2015-2016 season, Derrick suffered a fractured orbital eye bone that required surgery and caused him to return to the floor with a protective face mask. Despite that injury, Derrick started 66 games and averaged 16.4 points, 4.7 assists, and 3.5 rebounds per game that season. The third being MVP Derrick. And on February 22nd of this coming year against the New York Knicks, Derrick was, and this will be celebrated during that game against New York, Derrick was named the MVP for the 2010-2011 season and remains the youngest recipient in NBA history to date. That's exciting. During that season, Derrick averaged 25 points a game to go along with 7.7 assists a game and 4 rebounds a game, playing in 81 regular season games and leading the Bulls to a 62-20 record on the top seed in the Eastern Conference that year. That was the most memorable year for me watching Derrick Rose that year. That was a special season for the Chicago Bulls. And then finally, you got green jersey Derrick, and on March 19, 2026, versus the Cleveland Cavaliers, the Bulls will have that night going on for him. During the 2010-2011 season, Derrick and the Bulls wore a green alternate uniform twice, winning on the road against the New Jersey Nets and at home against the Washington Wizards. Derrick averaged 22 points and 4 assists per game while wearing the green jersey that season. So the green jersey, a popular one for Chicago Bulls fans. That's just a fun twist to things. The Bulls are putting together 4 nights there. Those are the 4 events on the schedule that you'll be seeing those given away there. So I'm ecstatic about that night. I'm certainly going to try and be in the building for that Derrick Rose retirement ceremony. He's going to join the likes of Scottie Pippen and Michael Jordan, some other memorable names up there in the rafters with the Chicago Bulls. So that is certainly something that Derrick is in honor of being able to have. It means a ton to him. He got very emotional when this was announced. So I cannot wait for that night here in Chicago this coming January. So switching gears here to some more current Chicago Bulls news, I wanted to kind of give you guys a scope on the Josh Giddey situation that I haven't really talked about, but I mean, it's been mentioned a little bit. I've kind of hinted to this scenario, but there is a nightmare scenario that looms if the Bulls don't get that extension done, and that is, if he hits the open market after signing that qualifying offer, it leads to the question naturally, what was the point of trading for Giddey if not to secure him on a long-term deal? Chicago wants Giddey and vice versa, but at the end of the day, the Aussie prefers monetary security clearly over everything else. So if Giddey feels his future isn't secure in Chicago, it's quite possible the Bulls' nightmare scenario can occur there. This would be a mess for Chicago. I think it kind of throws a wrench into whatever the future is going to bring for this organization, quite honestly. You guys remember towards the beginning, I was bullish on bringing him back on an extension. I do think when you look at the shape of everything in terms of how things are kind of going, I think Josh Giddey is an important piece to kind of lock up for your future there. In the likes of Ayo Dosunmu and Kobe White, whose futures are also up in the air, you would need to bring a guy like Josh Giddey back to kind of kickstart things. So I do expect them to get a deal done, hopefully within the next couple of weeks. We'll see, though, because that nightmare scenario continues to loom the longer this goes on. And I want to get your guys' take on it. Do you want them to lock him up right now? Do you want them to wait at this point? What's your take on the whole Josh Giddey situation? How do you feel about things kind of taking as long as they have? And switching into an important segment, I think, for this Bulls team, it's an area of improvement for each young Bull this year. There's a lot of young players on this roster. I wanted to kind of take a look at each one and an area of improvement for each guy as we move into this upcoming season, starting with Matas Buzelis. Obviously, he's going to be a massive part of this team coming up here. I think he's going to be the leader and the focal point in a lot of ways there. An area of improvement for him that I circled here is the playmaking for Matas. Buzelis didn't display much playmaking in his rookie season. He totaled nearly as many turnovers at 74 as he did assists. He had 79 assists there. Moreover, almost 70% of Buzelis' twos and just about all his three-point attempts were assisted. I think it's important when you're looking at Buzelis to unlock what you have in him, and that starts with him getting more on-ball reps. He flashed how effective he can be with the ball in his hands during the Summer League. I certainly was ecstatic to see that. The Summer League was a whole new Matas that you kind of saw. Hopefully that should translate into the regular season. I think you need to give him as many on-ball reps as possible to kind of unlock the player that he can become there. Kind of switching to the Bulls' first-round pick, it's not necessarily fair to give this guy something he needs to improve on. We haven't really seen him play yet, but it's something that I hinted at in terms of what we looked at when they drafted him and something he'll need to improve upon just in general, and that's his physicality. Asenge's physicality or lack thereof was evident in the Summer League when you watched him play. The 6'10" forward often found himself pushed around, leading to costly turnovers, so it's no surprise here that adding muscle for him and getting acquainted with the NBA's physicality are crucial for his development. That's one thing that I'm going to look for with him in his rookie season here. None other than Josh Giddey, the next young Bull, assuming things go as planned here, they get him locked up to an extension. Nonetheless, though, whether he's here on a qualifying offer or not, I think an area for improvement for Giddey is his perimeter defense. The 6'8" guard was torched in the Bulls' most important game of the season in that play-in matchup against Miami, routinely letting his opponent waltz to the rim on many occasions there. Giddey can hold his own and in and around the point, but he's too far and flat-footed on the perimeter. Among 100, this was an interesting stat for Giddey, diving into some of the analytics here. Among 176 guards and wings to play at least 1,000 minutes, Giddey ranked 96th in crafted NBA's catch-all defensive metric there. That's not very good when you dive into some of the analytics there in terms of how he stacks up to other guys in his position there. So perimeter defense is going to be something I want to see Giddey improve upon. We'll see. I definitely expect him to, especially with the mentality going forward, being a lot more defensive effective when it comes to Billy Donovan and kind of how the front office has shaped this roster. So, That's just something that Josh Giddey can improve upon. Switching to Isaac Okoro, the new Chicago Bull. I think a lot of Bulls fans may not have gotten to see much of him with the Cleveland Cavaliers. He wasn't, as big a factor there. Not sure if many of you guys remember him playing with Auburn as well in his collegiate experience there, but for Okoro, I think off the bounce scoring is going to be critical for him to be a factor on this Bulls team. I think he's going to bring it every night on defense. Um, the Auburn product has largely been reduced to a spot up shooter, a role he filled effectively in both 23 and 24 and then 24 and 25. However, he doesn't do much else. And I think that's something we're going to look for him to kind of develop his game and become more of a well rounded player. With Chicago here, Okoro needs to find comfort with the ball in his hands and within the 3-point line. Both things I expect and I naturally think he's going to get better at in a Billy Donovan system here. I think he's going to find the ball in his hands a lot more. He's going to be a much bigger part of this Chicago Bulls team and lineups that he is plugged into. So I think it's inevitable that you're going to see Okoro get better with the off the bounce scoring there. It's just a matter of time and development there. So definitely an exciting piece. You guys know I'm excited to watch Isaac Okoro. Really the one big move that's happened for Chicago this offseason as a result of that Lonzo Ball trade. So we'll see how things go for him and what is next for that guy there. I think when you look at some of these other young Bulls, these are two guards that I've talked about their futures kind of being up in the air. Julian Phillips. We'll start with Julian Phillips. I'm going to get into Dalen Terry in a second, but for Julian Phillips, it's on ball anything. If he can do anything on ball, I think that would be an important development and something you would look for him to add to his game. The 21-year-old, he's got to expand his offensive game to other than you just finishing at the rim and shooting spot up threes. That's all we really see from him. He's a hell of an athlete. I think Julian Phillips showed that in college and then in his young days in the NBA thus far. He definitely it has the ability to finish at the rim and shoot the spot up three, but you need to see more out of him. I think he will develop that. Hopefully he finds some playing time within these lineups that are going to be orchestrated. He's certainly a guy I think has a lot of flash and a lot of pop, and I think he could show that other than shooting the spot up shots and finishing at the rim there. We could see his game kind of develop there, and I'm excited for that. And then Dalen Terry, I know a lot of you guys like this player. He's been a Bulls fan favorite for a guy who really hasn't done much to this point. It's kind of surprising how much he's loved here in Chicago. But one area for him I kind of pinpointed was volume spot up shooting. If he can, get his spot up shots up, I think looking ahead, Terry isn't likely to handle the ball much, especially as a lower rotation piece on a roster featuring Josh Giddey, Trey Jones, Kobe White, and even Ayo Dosunmu. That means he'll need to maximize his limited opportunities, most of which will continue to come off the catch there. So when you plug Dalen Terry into a lineup, you need him to kind of be effective catching and shooting. I think that's what you're going to look for. If you can add a guy who gets the ball up quick and efficiently off the bench in Dalen Terry, I think he could maximize his potential there in a rotational piece. So we'll see what happens. Got my fingers crossed for him, and hopefully him and Julian Phillips, two guys I talked about numerous times in segments during the show. But if they can get some value and extract some good minutes out of both of those guys, this Bulls team could take the next step, and I'm excited to kind of see that opportunity commence there. And then finally, last but not least, I want to save him, Pat Williams. I think confidence. I want to see confidence from this player. There's still time for Williams to grow, as critical as I've been of him, and next season will be unlike many others for him. Williams still is going to find a place on this roster in which he can be effective. Next season will be unlike many others for him. He will come off the bench in a full-time capacity for the first time in his career. He won't have to cede touches to guys like Zach LaVine or DeMar DeRozan, which he's done in the past. he'll suit up alongside and against reserves there. So showing an increased level of aggression will be paramount for Williams in his new role. I want to see him unlock that aggression and stuff that we really haven't seen from him in terms of the confidence and the aggression. He has the capability and the traits to do that physically. I just really want to see him put that together in this new role that he's going to play for this Bulls team. So going over just some of those for those young Chicago Bulls players, let me know if you guys agree with those. What do you want to see from those guys I highlighted? Who is most important in your eyes for being a successful Chicago Bulls campaign coming up here, moving forward with these young guys? Which ones are the most critical? Who are you most excited to see moving into this next season? So, kind of wrapping things up today, we had some crazy news around the NBA outside of the game itself. Really, I mean, Malik Beasley is starting with Malik Beasley here. He's no longer a target of the federal gambling investigation conducted by the Eastern District of New York. His attorneys Steve Haney and Mike Schachter had told ESPN. This is interesting and honestly shocked me because I thought he was screwed. There was a lot of evidence that came out in regards to him possibly being involved in wagering on games. But with this news, it surprisingly, in a positive term for Beasley, potentially reopens free agency for one of the NBA's top shooters there. So we'll see if anyone takes a shot on him and brings him back there, given the kind of controversy off the court recently there. So that was an interesting news note I wanted to just kind of wrap things up today with. And then one last piece of news. This shocked the news world in general, but former father of Celtics star Jaylen Brown was accused of attempted murder in connection with a stabbing Wednesday night in Las Vegas. Quentin M. Brown, the 57-year-old father of Jaylen Brown, was arrested Thursday morning and booked into the Clark County Detention Center. Kind of a bizarre incident there. The stabbing occurred after he got into an argument with someone in a parking lot. And so apparently he dinged the victim's car door. The victim got out, looked at it, said, "No, this is a lot worse than you think. Like, come out and look at this." They got into it. They agreed to fight. And then Jaylen Brown's father eventually got out of the car and stabbed the victim multiple times in the stomach. So just a bizarre thing. And I really feel sorry for Jaylen Brown and that he has to go through this now moving forward. It's not a fun situation there and a very tragic one at that. The victim luckily is now recovering from surgery there. Is in critical condition, but had stomach surgery to kind of secure some of those wounds there and get things taken care of. But Jaylen Brown's father, what a sad, tragic thing there to kind of wrap up today's show. But that was a huge piece of news that kind of blasted everyone in the last 48 hours here. So as always, I want to thank you guys for joining me on another episode of Bulls Latest today. And we will catch you guys next week.